Ask an Expert. Like right when I press go live, I got self-conscious because I'm talking to like this incredible sports commentator, podcast host, and I was like, "What am I doing? I don't know. I don't know how to do this." So
I talk to you like every week.
I know, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're way better at this than I am." So I am joined here by Sinead Halpin Maynard, and I love talking to Sinead. So obviously I'm really excited for this one. But I'm also excited to hear like kind of your perspective on this. Tonight we're talking about how Sinead does it all. So really open
to lie in that topic.
No, you do. You have to give yourself more credit because you really do. Sinead wears a lot of hats. She has a lot of titles. We all know all of these, but you're a business owner, you're a competitor, you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a sports commentator, you're a podcast host, you're like a big like advocate in the like whole sport community. So I'm missing some, I know. So, but like even I'm one tired. Of those is a full-time job. Yeah. We all are. We're in this together. And not only that, but like you compete in eventing, but you also have like your continued education. You're continuing to learn in the natural horsemanship world, and always bringing in horses from overseas, and like just the number of things that are on your list at any given time. It feels like it would be overwhelming. So I'm excited to hear kind of how you manage all that. But before we dive in, if you are attending live and you have questions for Sinead, definitely feel free to put them in chat and I will relay those to her. And Sinead, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to dive in.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks very much. I got to send Tick to pick up the kids. I'm like, I have an hour talk. I have to talk to Kinsey. You got to go.
We can do this anytime you need a break. We can do this. So let's just hop on. We'll just
Monday through Friday. We will be doing this
every day. We're going to do some Ask an Expert. Okay. I mean, that's a win-win for us. So anytime. Well, I think it is like we all hear from Sinead so often, especially in the Ride IQ community via InStride, which has been so much fun. And you are so talented in that role. And then now every time we tune into a live event, like a live stream, it's Sinead's voice that you're hearing as a commentator. And it's like, oh my gosh, how is she doing all of this? I know I kind of mentioned a couple of the things that you've been doing recently, at least from my point of view, but from your point of view, kind of what are your main focuses at currently in your career and just your life?
Just to start with a small question.
Yeah. Easy one.
Yeah. I think just like anyone, I think it changes throughout the year, right? Especially as a competitor, I think we're just about to get into season. So some things shift. Being that we're down in Florida full time, our summers look a little different than our winters. Our springs look a little different than our falls. But currently, I'm really excited about a couple of new horses that are in the barn. So I've been really working hard on getting to know those horses and making sure that I'm kind of putting the work into the relationship. I'm getting to know them. I'm also putting the time into the skill sets, making sure they're prepared so that when they come out this fall, they are ready. And, nobody likes to show up feeling a little late or feeling a little behind. And that's almost always inevitable at some point to go, oh, I missed a step. But I've been working hard with those horses. I think, honestly, on a personal level, I think Tick and I know I say this on the podcast a lot, probably every 6 months, we kind of go through and just check and make sure that we're staying aligned with what we feel like our purpose is and where our goals are set. And I think there's been a few things that have happened lately. There's been a lot of challenges, I think, for everybody in the sport that have, shown up. I think things show up when they should, right? I think they have shown up and they've been difficult. And I think a lot of stuff that has happened through people getting injured or some real spotlights on highlights on some things that are pretty hard to watch or handle or digest, I think makes you kind of take a second step back and reflect on what you're doing and making sure that you're, just, like I said before, staying aligned. And so I think personally, I've kind of looked at the next, 4 to 6 years and been kind of shifting some stuff around a little bit. I'm not totally willing to say out loud what that is, but I think we've been doing a little inner work just to see how and where we want to be in the sport in the next 5 to 10 years and how we want to give back, basically, like how we want to contribute. Because I think at the end of the day, I think that is a huge part of about being happy and being fulfilled and feeling whole, is about what you can give back. So I think we've been doing a lot of soul searching there to make sure that we're on the right track. And then my kids are like at super fun ages. Brooks just turned 6. We had the most epic bouncy castle. I mean, it had 2 dinosaurs on it. So that was awesome. And Goldfish Violet, our youngest, she is 2 and she is wild. And so that's really fun. So I think right now the focus is a few different things, and it's just trying to make sure that whatever that thing is in the moment, I'm focused on that. And then I can take a second, move to the next thing and be focused on that. So is that long-winded enough of an answer for the first question?
Yeah, that is a great starting point. And I have a lot of follow-up questions related to that, but to start with, when you would you describe yourself as somebody who really compartmentalizes? Like if you're in fill in the blank mode, like if you're in commentator mode or you're in coach mode, is that are you somebody who really has a lot of boundaries around protecting that, or how do you try to what is your approach to that?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I think it depends. I mean, I think we all have things that really grab us, right? And it's not hard to stay focused. I think that's a lot of your journey and your personal journey and everybody's individual journey is trying to seek those things out. I think when I'm riding, I find it very easy, and training, I find it very easy to be focused then. I think I have to work really hard. With our horses, we always take them for a hack before they work and a hack after they work. And I have to work really hard not to pick my phone up or not to check my email and just walk down the road. That's hard. But as soon as I get into work, I focus there. With the commentary, I find it really easy. I do put my phone away. I've had to elbow some of my the guys that I commentate with at sometimes, because it can you can get distracted, and sometimes comments come in whether you got something wrong. I mean, everybody's human. Sometimes we get facts wrong, and somebody will say it and then you'll be self-conscious, and then so I put my phone away. And I think eventing's so exciting that it's pretty easy to stay focused. And coaching, I try and do the same thing. If my phone's in my pocket, I sometimes do find it hard to if I feel the buzz. So I try and put my phone down and go into the ring. So I think that's probably my only thing, is just trying to get the things that would distract me away. And that's really it.
Yeah. Being really purposeful around where your phone is a theme along all. And that's so real. Mm-hmm. I have a walking treadmill that I put under my desk sometimes. And people, and it's actually interesting because I don't do it for exercise. I'm going so slow, but I find that when I'm walking, I don't have that inclination to check my phone quite as much, because my brain is already focused on something else in addition to the work. My brain is subconsciously walking.
Do you have a standing desk and you just have a treadmill that you walk on? That's so crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it keeps me focused enough that I'm not getting distracted by a ping on my phone or something. I'm not accidentally looking down and opening up Instagram because I'm trying to stay upright, trying to walk while doing the work. So that's just one of those things that I've figured out helps with that, just general inclination to always want to be looking at your phone. which
So
is
funny that you say that. So it was like a month ago, and I was at the gym, and I go on a pretty steep incline on the treadmill, and I always warm up kind of walking sideways, walking backwards, walking sideways. And coach let me, it was really early and nobody was in the gym, so he let me pick the music. So he gave me his iPad while I was walking backwards, and I like literally he had to scream because I nearly walked off it. Like I stopped walking as I was trying to figure out what I was doing, and I was like on like going like this down the thing, and I nearly had the biggest injury ever because you can't do like two things at once. Like you can't stay upright. That's so funny. I was like, I will not do that again.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, that would have been so bad. Sinead gets super injured walking on a treadmill.
Backwards looking at an iPad.
Yeah.
Pandora.
Oh man, thank gosh that did not happen. Okay. So you do have a lot of different things that you're pursuing right now. And I don't know, like, do you have a kind of allocation? Like what do you allocate how much of your time to being a competitor or being a business owner or being a commentator, being a podcast host? Like, how do you manage, or do you just like, is it just kind of like you fit it into your schedule and that is kind of how you do it?
I'm not probably as regimented as that. It's more that does what I'm doing align with my like core values and goals. Like, yeah, like my kind of my purpose, like, is this aligning with that? And so that is the first question when I get kind of asked to do stuff or I'm spending time with things, and whether that's teaching lessons or taking horses in training or the horses that I'm riding or the commentating that I'm doing, or if I'm trying to fit a lesson in, like teaching a lesson or whatnot. So the first check is always, is it kind of moving towards one or two of these things? And then weighing what makes sense. Like, for example, this fall, I was kind of thinking, like I got the call, which was really exciting, to commentate at Maryland again, which I love. And at that moment when Connie asked, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to be competing, and I knew I couldn't do both. Like I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the 3-star there myself. And so I asked her if I could hold off a little bit. And it was really a struggle because the commentating is something I really enjoy, and it's something that I think is needed. And for the, kind of what I'm going to be doing moving forward, I think there's a big, I want to keep my foot in that, but I also am still very much wanting to compete. But I just gave myself a second and I didn't make the decision right away. And then I just let the chips fall where they would. And as kind of the season has come along, it's just made a little more sense for that horse to go to Terra Nova than Maryland. And so it was a kind of, it was a decision I had to make, but then it just made sense for me to kind of pick that one, So I think sometimes it's very clear where you should be spending time. And I think sometimes if you really pay attention, there's some things that you like to do, but they don't really get you anywhere. Like it's not really moving you in a direction. You just enjoy it. And if you have time for that, and if you just need some enjoyment, like awesome, do it. But then if you've got things that you're not totally sure, sometimes I just sit with those for a little bit. And normally if you just kind of pay attention, one of them rises to the top where you should be spending your time. Does that make sense? I don't know if that
totally. No, it definitely does. Yeah. Sometimes it kind of works itself out. And by not being quick to like make the decision, it sometimes like the right way. Cause I mean, had you told her no, and then you were like, this horse shouldn't be going to Maryland, you would have felt like a pressure to go to Maryland now as a competitor. And like, yeah. So I think that makes perfect sense to kind of take a breath and see kind of how things
not like totally like your ego, like for me, like I was like, no, I'm a rider. And then I was like, just calm down.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter when you can be two things at once. It's fine. So yeah.
Yeah. You seem to be really driven by your own values and your own goals. Are those things that you write down, or do you just internalize them? How do you formalize that?
Oh yeah, I've got like notebooks for days. I mean, I can't tell you how many notebooks this computer is stacked on right now. Like I like to write. I don't love typing on the computer, to be honest. So I do write a lot of stuff down. And I enjoy I enjoy getting up early in the morning and just kind of having some peace and quiet to think through some of those things. And that is where also I try and redirect when I'm trying to not pick up my phone on my hacks, or I try and like let my mind wander a little bit and kind of just check back in and make sure that I'm actually doing what I want to be doing. Yeah, for sure.
Are you referring back to the stuff you write down, or do you find that once you write it down, it's like, it's kind of, you know what it, you like, that's, you internalize it?
Yeah, I don't normally go back. Yeah. I just get it down
Interesting.
on paper, and then normally I get some stuff down on paper, and then I get kind of excited about it, and then Tick and I'll sit down and I might pull it out just to reference when we were kind of sitting down going through some stuff. But yeah, I normally just get it down and get it out.
Wow. Really interesting.
Mhm.
What does a typical day at home look like for you?
Look at your puppy behind you.
I know. Isn't he distracting? He's so cute.
You got to put your
Man.
puppy down. He is distracting.
Okay.
I just did a little rollover, and I'm like, oh.
I know. It must be nice. Oh.
Why? I'm sorry. I wasn't listening to the question. My
Fair.
focus.
Totally fair.
Yeah.
What does a typical day at home look like for you?
Okay. I'll go through like what day is today?
Thursday.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess normally what I do is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I leave the house a little before 5 a.m. and go to the gym. And that way I'm back in time to make lunches for the kids. And then between Tick or myself or my mom, we, somebody drives them to school. So if I'm driving to school, I start riding at 9. If I'm not driving to school, I start riding at 8. And then I normally have got kind of my horses from, I would say 8 till 12 or 8 till 1. And that would include kind of my competition horses in training. And sometimes there's buffer time in there. I try and leave that in case I want to take the horses cross country schooling or lessoning or something like that. And then I have lessons in the afternoon most of the time. And sometimes that runs straight through to, again, somebody's got to pick the kids up. So I would say, between Tick and Tick travels a lot more now. So that would be on my list a little bit more. So I really have to try and, no matter what, have my day wrapped by, if I'm going to get the kids by 4, and if I don't, have to go pick them up by 5. So that's kind of the norm.
And then do you like keep your evenings open for mom time?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean I mean, we try. I mean, Tick is actually better at this than me, but it's like really important to him that at least like we have like, he would love to have a once a week date night, but it normally turns into like probably twice a month. But yeah, I mean, I think evenings are normally us doing something with the kids until, they're up till, kind of 5 till they get home around 5, and then we play from 5 to 7, and then it's kind of get ready for bed. And then I go to bed early. So often Tick is putting our son to bed and I'm asleep before him.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
That's
like
incredible.
8:30 or like
8:30. That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah,
I love that. I was on a meeting with somebody recently, and he was like, yeah, we put our kids to bed at 6. And I was like, 6? I was like, that is so early. He was like, they can't tell time.
No, they can't.
Yeah,
They can't. I mean, Violet, we used to be able to get her down at 6:30. And the reason that we don't now really is because it's a little selfish. It's because we want to hang out with her. And so, but she's at 7, she's down, and she doesn't get up until 7.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I mean, yeah, no, that's really helpful. And what kind of help do you guys have, like in the barn with at home? How does that all work?
Yeah, we're really lucky now. So we had we had the most amazing au pair when Violet was born. So Allison, she's from Ecuador, and she lived with us for a year and a half, and she's one of my most favorite people in the world. So she was amazing. So we're really lucky to have her. But now Violet's in school. So the kids go to school. Well, they're at Montessori, so they go to school Mondays through Fridays from 8 till we pick them up at 4:30. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, we just have a girl now that's awesome. She has a 3-year-old son. And so she basically is kind of a full-time mom and is doing some nannying. So she has another family she works for, and then she helps us Saturdays, Sundays, and then she often kind of does a weeknight, like if we're going to do something. And the kids love her. And Bray, her son, comes, and he's right in between our kids' age, so they all just have a great time. So that's the kids. In the barn, we're really fortunate. We have 3 full-time people, and then we have a wonderful man that we rent a studio. Well, we trade a studio apartment, and he does our stalls and water. So we've got 2 full-time grooms and a working student. And then we have Jamie, who does the kind of barn chores in the evening in exchange for housing.
Okay. So that's a pretty lean barn team. How did you guys decide on that? How do you guys?
We got our numbers down. So we have done it every which way as far as the amount of horses that we've had in the barn. And we have really found that we really want to keep our numbers from like under 15. Like right now, I think we have 13.
Wow, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. A big question we received has been around barn workers and how to find good ones. Let's start with how to find good ones, but also we'll get to like how to create a culture in the barn that's really beneficial to everybody and like really positive. But let's start with, how do you find like quality, reliable workers for the barn?
I think a little bit it starts honestly with being clear about what you're offering and who you are, so that people that are looking to work for you kind of can connect with something other than, I just want to be a good rider, or I just want to learn to ride. Like, I think personalities do matter, and what kind of is your kind of core beliefs in your farm do matter. I mean, the people that have come to work for us that have had an interest in animal behavior and natural horsemanship and looking at through that way have really worked great. And we don't always get the people into the barn that maybe are like, I want to go to the Olympics and I want to do, have that intensity about them. And that actually has been okay for us. Now, I think the other thing you've got to we've learned to be realistic about is that, like, everybody, it's not young people that are coming to work are trying to figure out what they want to do. So I think where you can run into struggles is trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. Like, you want to have your people in the barn that really want to be a groom, like really want to do that. Like really, they're pretty sure that's what their job is. And then that working student role has got to be one that, even as an employer, you understand it. They're trying to figure out what they want to do. And they might realize in 2 weeks, this isn't what they want to do. They might actually not realize it, but you do. And really recognizing that staff does turn over. Like, it's not as frustrating as it is for the employer, because you kind of get into a routine, and it's hard because staff will move and then you have to train somebody else. But that is the model. Like, staff will continue to turn over, at least on a certain level. And but I think when you find good people, or you find that one good person and you figure out what motivates them, then you do that. And I would say that as long as they're making enough money that they can survive, I would find it very rare that the primary motivation is making money. I mean, it's not, or we wouldn't have anybody working for us.
Yeah.
So I think figuring out what motivates them, being really honest about what you're offering and who you are, so you can connect to the right type of people for you. And then I think recognizing that staff turnover, like, you can't be where we have made our biggest mistakes. Like, moments I look back and I feel really like, I wish I could do that again better, is when I felt like I knew that somebody needed to move on, that this wasn't the thing for them, but I needed them because I didn't have anybody else, and they outstayed their their time where they were the best versions of themselves. And I probably wasn't the best version of myself because I needed them to be somebody else. Not better. I just needed them to be somebody different. And that's not really fair.
Yeah. How do you find what motivates them?
You ask.
But do you think people really know?
I think they have an idea. I think if you ask, then at least they start thinking about it. You know, and I think you can keep asking, and I think you can keep directing. I think that's the part of they're trying to figure that out, you know, and I've had people that don't like, they really want to know. And then if they've been here for 6 months and they're still like, I just don't know. I'm like, well, then I think you need to probably do something else, because if you don't know yet, then this probably isn't it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So when you're first bringing them on, one of the first questions you're asking them is what motivates you. Is that correct?
100%. Like in the interview call, on the whatever, is like, what is your expectation? What do you want to get out of this? Totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then how are you managing your like boss employee relationship with them? And then how are you managing their relationship with each other?
With Tick and I, and then with
your boss relationship with the people who work in your barn, and then do you do any like management of the workers' relationship with each other?
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Honestly, that's been the hardest thing. That's been my biggest struggle over the last couple of years, has not been my relationship or even Tick's relationship. It's been the relationships between how people work together. And some of it just doesn't work. Like, and that's really hard. I mean, because I've even brought like Natalie Hummel has come in and tried to like, you know, I'm like, let's sit at the table and like, I'll talk about this. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, I mean, I do find that's the hardest thing. And then it's so interesting because like lately, I think sometimes it just takes a while to get the right mix. Like we've had great people. I mean, some of the biggest arguments I honestly are discussions I've had with some of our staff when they haven't been getting along is like, you guys are great. Like nobody here is an asshole. Like, excuse my language. So I don't understand why you guys can't get on. Like, and sometimes people just don't, whether they're just insecure in where they are in their life, or there's a bit of a power struggle, or maybe I haven't set clear enough. That has happened sometimes when people have come in at the same time and have been trying to figure out who has the little bit of the hierarchy. Like that's been difficult. And I've had to step in at that point and really kind of draw the line a little bit and that's been difficult. So I think the interstaff relationship is hard. One of the things that we've just done is really tried to separate housing. We have 3 different possibilities on our property so that our full-time people actually, even if they get along great, aren't living together. I think and that's really hard to do because a lot of places have one house and it's shared living, but I think that's really hard. I think when they're even if they're the best people in the world, when they're working together and living together, that's really, really hard.
Yeah, because resentments will carry over, and I mean, it just becomes like it builds.
Yeah.
So now when you bring people on, are you clear of like if you brought on somebody named like Sally, would you be like, okay, Sally, you report to Steve, and Steve reports to me? Like, are you like, do you go through the function of being like, here is the hierarchy with people?
A little bit. We had to go in several times and redefine the job roles independent of the person. Then we had to say, okay, everybody's an avatar. It doesn't matter. Like Tick's groom is this person, my groom is this person, our working student is this person. These are the responsibilities of this person, everything down from, you know, who calls the vet, who calls the farrier, who organizes this, because that has been, and who needs to have a conversation about what, and when does it come to us? So that is a really helpful thing to go through a lot, is really defining the roles as if you're not, because I think what we can get into is we create the roles for the person instead of creating the roles first and then finding the person, or sitting down. A lot of times we just, what we have done is create those job roles, write everything out, and then sit down and say, okay, where do you feel like your strong points are? What do you want to do? What do you want to hand off? Especially when you have equal roles. Like we have 2 grooms, but right now it's great because one of our girls has been here for 2 years. Our other girl just came in about 2 months ago, and they get along great. But it's obviously the girl that's been here longer has a little bit more seniority. So, but they've now been able to divvy out some of the jobs as far as like ordering stuff, ordering feed, ordering shavings when the dumpster gets picked up, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What qualities are most important? What qualities do you prioritize when you're hiring somebody?
They have to have a good letter when they send it in. They need to spell check.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that's something you prioritize because you're not hiring people to be writers, but if that is an indicator clearly to you of other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Like how you send your letter in is, I think, really important. References are really important. I think attitude is huge, like, having that reference in your reference, like how does somebody get along with others? What's their attitude like? Work ethic for sure, but everybody's opinion, you're never going to get somebody that says, well, I'm a mediocre worker. Everybody says they work hard. So that, I take with a grain of salt. If I obviously ask, the reference for that, and some humility. And I think if they're interested in the horse behavior side of stuff, that almost umbrellas that. Like, I think when people come to us because they're interested in in the horse psychology and the horse behavior, they almost always have a character I can almost generally say they have a character that's interested in learning and interested in looking at things from a different perspective. And I think that's really, really important. I think being like wanting to learn something that's not as direct line as, I just want to come and I want to get better and I want to be a good rider. Like that to me is, I'm like, yeah. And
yeah, you and everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's something, I need something else. So
yeah, super cool. So that's a good transition over to understanding how much of your time is spent on like traditional schooling versus natural horsemanship and groundwork type of work, or in your mind, are the two things kind of impossible to separate? Like, is it kind of always a little bit of both, or do you consciously say like, today I'm going to spend most of my time with this horse working on groundwork or
Oh yeah,
what have you?
I think a lot of it is separate because there's just stuff on the ground. Like Tick Tick does certainly more than me. But also we have like 3-3-year-olds in the barn, that he's starting, so that they spend a lot of time in the round pen. But I find that there's certain things in the round pen that I find very, very helpful. Like mounting, like getting horses used to mounting, getting horses used to whips, getting horses used to like loading up, getting horses to stop off of a cue, off of a treat, off of a whoa. That's super easy to do in the round pen. The mounting stuff is super easy to do in the round pen. I can say I'm not always good at doing it. Like if it's not a real problem, I have to like make myself like, okay, today I'm going to go into the round pen and this horse needs to be a little bit better about getting on, because that's just how you start your whole ride. And if you're like kind of leaping on, that's never ideal, so I think that there's certain things, if I feel like something's weird with the jumping, making sure that I have enough, work on the ground that I can jump them on a rope. That's super helpful. So I think there's certain things that I would, with certain horses, that I prioritize that are separate, like round pen stuff, because it's just easier to do it separate, spend a whole session on that. And then we're really lucky because our girls are great. Like Lindsay, who works for me, like if I'm traveling or I'm gone, I don't even have to tell her anything. I'm like, this one, I'm like, maybe just work on this one standing in the box. So like our horses will self-load, which she can tack them up at the horse show with them standing ground tied. They won't eat grass. They'll stand there. She can hose them. Like, she does so much work so that her job at the horse show is easy. And when the horses are quiet and easy at the horse show and they're not freaking out in the trailer by themselves, or they can stand there and get tacked up, or if I'm on one, she can work one on the rope for 5 minutes. I mean, it just makes such an epic difference. And most of the time now, I just don't even help her because like I get in the way. I'm like, when we go cross country schooling, you know, I just leave her alone because I normally let the horses eat grass. And she's like, could you stop doing that? You need to just stand there. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. But she doesn't teach that at the horse show. She teaches it in the round pen, you know? And so those things are very interesting. But certainly the work that we do and how we train has all got the kind of those theories in the back of our heads. But, you know, I think that just becomes a way that you think, not something that you do all the time. But like anything, if you have a horse that's got a ditch issue, you're probably going to go work on some stuff with ditches. If it's the same thing with, you know, leading, tying, standing, getting on, getting off, all that sort of stuff.
Got it. Did Lindsay learn all of this stuff on the job?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a dream. Oh my
Yeah, it's
gosh.
really important for us.
That's
So
so
the girls
cool.
spend a lot of time. I mean, and we just hired a boy. So the girls and boys, everybody. Yeah, they all are very, very, very good. It
That
makes our
is
life so much
awesome.
easier because yeah, I mean, so much of the training is on the ground and in and they all ride great too. So they can, you know, like you know, like Lindsay's been helping me with a horse lately of a client's, and I got bucked off the other day, and so I've been a little bit cautious about what I've been getting on. And so she's been riding, and this is a young horse that we've just been doing in a rope halter riding, and Lindsay's been out doing it, and I've just been watching, and it's been great. So it's really
Amazing.
mm-hmm.
That seems like a win-win. It's great for you, but I'm sure she's absolutely loving that. Like it
Well, it's
really.
a win-win-win because it's great for the horses. It's easy
Yeah,
for me. It's easy. It's great for her, but the horses are the ones that it just makes a more well-rounded thing. Mhm.
totally. That's really, really cool. So, I mean, a big portion we've kind of talked about, we've touched on what life is like when you guys are having a normal day at home, but I know a lot of your life is you're on the road, like you're traveling to competitions and you're traveling to clinics. What's your process for making traveling to competitions, like making that a successful experience for your kids, for you, for your horses, for your workers? Like, kind of what's your whole approach to that?
Our camper has been life-changing. Like, I mean, it really, I cannot explain to you the happiness and joy that our RV brings me. Because I think for some reason, as eventers, we get into this like thing, like we have to be like sort of miserable at some of these horse shows, and we just have to like sit at the barn when it's like too hot or too cold, or we're not doing anything and we need to sit at the barn, but we don't need to be there. The horses, we're kind of annoying them. And we just like, you know, go eat shitty food and stay at a hotel 20 minutes away and go to Applebee's. And then we have to go back for lates. And then we're not in bed till midnight. And then we have to get up at 5. And then, I mean, it's just awful. Right.
Yeah.
And they're like, why isn't this competition going well?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're very fortunate and we really made it a priority. Like I was like, this has got to happen because we have like very small children and we're going on the road. I mean, we've taken them on the road on some epic trips. And I want to be able to do both and I don't want to be miserable. I mean, misery often is self-inflicted, right? So I think that has been really big for us when we go to the horse shows. And even, you know, like, it's so funny. Lindsay and I went up to Chat Hills and we were just going for 2 days, but Chat Hills is in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's half an hour outside of Atlanta, but it's also half an hour from like any hotel and any food. I mean, and it's like even eating, like if you eat healthy-ish and then you go to a horse show and you eat horrible. And I actually like almost sent in, and I really should. I almost sent in a event evaluation form for one of our local events because all of the food trucks are like cheese,
Yeah.
grease. And I'm like, I can't do this. And so I digress. But it did not make sense for us to haul 2 trucks and trailers up for 2 days. And so I found a super inexpensive camper for somebody to drop off. And it was like, you know, like Lindsay slept on the couch but we just had our little space, and it was as the same price as a hotel with food. And we had our own food there, and we never had to leave. And like, I find I do meditate, and I need to do that. And I need to visualize before I compete. And I have to have some quiet space to do it. I'm not good enough at it that I could sit at the stall and just close my eyes and zen out. Like, I just cannot do that. And so going and having, I find this like, even when I'm at, like, we brought our camper to Kentucky, even when I was commentating in Kentucky, and I was like, go, go, go. And our kids I had to go like sit in the camper and have like just 10 minutes. Like, I just need 10 minutes and then I'm good to go again. So that has been a huge thing, because I can control my sleep. I can control some quiet time. My kids can go in there. There's enough space that I can have all of our staff can stay in there.
My gosh. Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's got 2 entrances, and it's got 2 bathrooms.
Oh my gosh.
Like, the back bunk has 3 bunks and a bathroom, and they can come in without coming through the main area, so they can come in and out as they please. And there's an outside fridge even, so they can put stuff out there. And then we've got the center space, and then there's the master bedroom. And like our kids just, I mean, we just all sleep in the same bed in here. And so it's perfect. I mean, it really is like, yeah, it's awesome.
That is really cool.
And at the end of the day, then you just don't spend the money on hotels and on food.
Yeah.
And when you have people working for you, you have to get hotels for them too. And then there has to be separate cars, and it's just way better.
Yeah. Just the food thing alone, like just having, like, staying on your normal routine, like whatever that is, because you know, all the times to be like totally like just exclusively eating donuts, like at a competition, like why is this the norm? Like,
you're completely setting it up for failure.
Yeah.
You're like taking yourself completely out of your normal routine, everything wise. And so I have found that that's been really important.
Oh, okay. That's really cool. And I have more questions related to competitions and stuff, but before I forget, you've listed a couple what to me sounds like non-negotiables for you, which in meditation at competitions, does that include meditation at home on a daily basis? You mentioned like an early bedtime. What are some other things for you, like in your routine, either at competition or at home, that are like these non-negotiables?
It's probably the gym. And I will say non-negotiable, meaning I'm not like a psychopath. Like, I'm not like a 6 day a week. And if something comes up and I can't go, I can't go. But I really try my Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. That's my routine. And then coach is great. Like, if something comes up and I need to go in on a Saturday, he'll come in on the Saturday. I think that my cold plunge really helps me.
And how often do you do that?
Oh, every day.
Oh my gosh.
It only takes 2 minutes. There's literally no excuse not to go. I mean, today, I think it was so funny. It was like yesterday, the day before, I was like really hurting, and Brooks came out and he's sitting out there with me. And I asked him if he would sit there and sit quietly with me for just do like a 3-minute meditation. And he's 6. And he took this on as a challenge. He said, I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm like, that's fine. And so we sat there for 3 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get in the cold plunge. And I'm just going in for 2 minutes. And he's like, Mommy, you can do another minute. You can do 3. Come on, you can do it. And I'm like, you need to tell me a story. I'm like sitting in there. I'm like, tell me a story now. But it's so cute. But that's really important.
Wow. Okay. The cold plunge. Do you have any?
I think going to bed is really important. And it's so wild, because if anybody who knew me in my 20s, like, and even halfway through my 30s, would be like, oh my God, Sinead never sleeps. Like, she's up till midnight, and then she's up again at like 4 a.m, and she's just going, which was probably pretty true. But I think I just like blindly, I don't know how I did what I did, but now getting a good night's sleep is like really, really important. So I eat healthy enough. I'm not like a crazy person, but I try not to eat too badly. But normally I can tell if I get a little off, or if I'm like really super irritable or something's going on. I either haven't cold plunged, haven't gone to the gym, or I haven't gotten a good night's sleep, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good routine. That's a lot to aspire to. Do you try to meditate daily, or is just a competition?
Yeah, I try and habit stack that with the plunge, because I try and do it in ways that actually I enjoy it. Like, because here in Florida, it's super hot. So I get in the cold plunge, and it's you freeze.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I'm out of that, I try and do 10 minutes right then out of that outside. Because then it's just nice because you're like freezing and then the sun can kind of warm you up while you do that. Or I have like, I don't have a great back. And so I have like a roller, like a long one, not like a short one. And so when I lay on that, I'll do a 10-minute on that. And so and it's wild. I was thinking about it today because I used it today. And, in the round pen, sometimes you can sit and you can wait for a horse to take a deep breath after they process something. And when you're watching them, sometimes it'll take them like a minute, right? To just, and it's wild for me because sometimes it'll be like, I won't even think about it. And I'll be like 6 minutes or 7 minutes, I'm not even sure, into this 10-minute meditation. And then I'll finally just take this huge deep breath. And it's like wild that it takes that long when I didn't even realize I was holding my breath, like I'm breathing shallow, it's crazy.
What tool do you use for meditation?
I just use the Calm app. So they've got guided apps that I'll use if I'm feeling it. But a lot of times I'll just do like a noise and timer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, Calm is great. Are there other apps or like productivity tools that you use on a regular basis?
No, I mean, I think I'm like super, super into the 10% Happier podcast. Has been like, I love Dan Harris. I think he's awesome. And I love Arthur Brooks. He has a good podcast. And so those I pretty much always listen to in the morning on the way to the gym, and those settle me down, or on the way home from school, dropping the kids, those settle me down. But no, I mean, those, I don't really use too many other things.
Yeah. Do you are you and your workers at the barn, are you guys all on the same like calendar app, or how do you manage schedules?
No, dry erase board and texting.
That is wild.
I know. For some reason, I think we're all writers. Like even Lindsay, I mean, we just have like notebooks in the barn and a calendar, and just everything gets written down because like even with billing and stuff, it's just, it feels good to write, this horse did this one did that. And then she just flips through it. And it's the same thing. We have a ride board. We have a joy board, like that you can just write stuff on if you find something will bring you joy.
I like
then
that.
if someone needs to do it, they'll do it. So yeah.
That's really fun. Do you guys do any are you guys doing anything for your workers to also build a relationship with them outside of the barn, or do you try to keep a pretty defined line between like church and state? Like you work like, how like are you like, I know there's some coaches who really take a like come over for dinner type approach, and some coaches are like, no, like we're gonna be very separate. What has your guys' approach been to that, and kind of what's your thought process on it?
I'm gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
I'm not gonna sneeze. Yeah, I mean, we live above the barn, so it's kind of hard to separate.
Yeah.
And there's one apartment downstairs and 2 in the other barn. But so yeah, we do, like, even for like Burghley, on Saturday morning, like I think everybody was in the house by 7 a.m. The horses were in, and we all watched and had breakfast. And then it's cute because Lindsay, even today, she's like, what's our plan for Sunday? And I kind of said, well, this one's got a gallop and whatever. She's like, do you think we could do like a brunch? I think we need to do like a brunch. We all need to just, do something. She's super cute that way. And then my mom she lives next door. So, and they came to Brooks's birthday party. So it's not like we do, because we have little kids. But I mean, also we're outside with the kids from 5 to 6. So everybody just kind of can hang out or go do their own thing. And then we try and do a once a month, especially with our syndicate, like our local syndicate members and our team members will do like a once a month dinner, and one will be here and one will be at my mom's, and a couple of our other members are local. So they'll host, and then we'll go over there. And so there tends to be little kind of like touch points, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that sounds really nice. Okay, so when you're traveling, how do you manage when you're at a competition? How do you manage having the kids there? Do you bring a nanny with you? Is it just like an all hands on deck situation? And then let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it every which way. I mean, it is really hard to have them without help if we're trying to do a good job. You know, like we, yeah, that is hard. So we do try and bring someone with us if at all possible, whether it's Tick's mom or my mom, or it was great when Allison was here because she just always came with us. So now, I mean, I think we've still got to work it out for this fall with some of the competitions, because I do find it, and so does Tick. It's super distracting. It's really hard to do both. It's really hard to do both well.
Yeah.
And especially because often you need to be walking courses at night and you need to be paying attention and you need to have an early night. I do find that very difficult to do.
What's your guys' distance? Like, is your preference to like push it as much as possible of like coming home at night at shows? Or like, is it like if it's over an hour drive, we stay overnight? Do you guys have like a rule of thumb there?
We try and get home. Yeah, we try and get home, for the horses. Well, I shouldn't say that way, but yes, it is to get the horses out and for the kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try and get home. I mean, I think 7 hours is probably it starts to get the cutoff time, like depending on how late, but like Chat, I mean, if we get done at Chat, it takes us 7 hours to get home from Chat. If we get done at 1 or 2 o'clock, we're coming home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what about the ones that like on a Friday, like in mid competition? Are you like, if are you going to drive an hour and a half back and forth in one day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, like how we get there in the day. Yeah. I mean, I think 3 hours is probably, like, if it's an hour and a half, we're doing it in one day. If it's 2 hours, we'd probably do it in one day. Probably once you're getting 3 hours, you're going to stay over.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you take lessons? Do you have a coach yourself? What's your own process to your own like learning and that whole realm?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple coaches. I have a dressage coach. I ride with Baron Hildebrand. He's amazing. He's like, I mean, you need the different person for each different time, but he's fantastic. And I've so enjoyed working with him for the past year. And I've always enjoyed dressage, but he's taken it to another level and taken tons of marks off of my scores. And now if like the horses aren't in the mid to low 20s, I'm like, it's all me. I'm like, what did I do? Like, it's just, It would be silly if they weren't like it. And it's very good. He's a very good horseman, and it's very correct, but it's also very in the horse's interest. Nothing's made up, nothing's manufactured. He like from the time I got there, that's what he kept saying. I was too manufactured and I was trying too hard and it's too much, and calm down. So he's amazing, and he's amazing. And I jump with Scott Keach and also with Jamie, who has worked for him for like the past 10 years. So she'll help me when Scott's gone. And then for, cross country, it's a little tricky down here in the summer because there's not a lot of people here, but honestly in the summer, you don't want to be going cross country anyway. And so I kind of jump in with when Ian Stark or anyone's down here. Ian comes to Coleman's quite a bit, so I'll go ride with Ian when I have the chance. Is great.
Okay. And then what qualities, like how did you decide who should be your coaches? Why am I struggling with that question?
I get it. I get it. This hour, I start to see. I can't even like.
I'm taking us both down.
So late, 2 hours for my bedtime.
Yeah, I know. We got to get you to bed.
Well, I think it's what you need at the time, right? So Scott, I've ridden with now for probably almost 3 years because I started riding with him before I was pregnant with Violet, so maybe a little longer. Scott is a really tricky personality. He's a very tricky personality. He is a genius, and I really felt like I needed a big learn, and I felt like I needed to get a lot better in the show jumping. And I don't hear of people having systems for that. People just kind of teach you a little of this, or you just practice jumping courses. And Scott really has a system. And I also was kind of fascinated, and this is weird, that I really felt like our personalities would not work. And I almost like felt like I needed that. I really needed somebody, instead of that I could kind of like be chummy with, or like talk my way through, or like I felt like I was peers with or whatever. I really needed somebody that was just like, I don't care if
Mm-hmm.
you're a nice person or not, you know? And so Scott was really interesting, and he's been amazing. He's really truly been amazing. And Baron, I think that came through because he was teaching a couple of people that I was teaching in jumping, and he made like a really interesting difference. Like I really noticed a difference in the way that the horses were fundamentally going. And so I was like, well, he's just down the road. I'll go take a lesson. And I just thought he was so confident. He is so confident and cool. Like I've never heard him. It's not like he's opinionated, but he's not emotional. He's just like, I'm right.
Yeah.
Which I like that confidence when somebody's teaching me. And, like Scott can get emotional, but he's also very like, he's like, I'm right. And that when somebody I don't want to doubt them, like,
Totally.
and it needs to line up with what I know. And I know, like, not to sound whatever, but I know a lot I've been doing this a lot. So if somebody's telling me something that sounds foreign to me, but they're so confident that they've got it right, like, I'm like, okay, let's go. But if somebody's kind of wishy-washy, or I'm kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that. And then you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I find when people are very confident in what they're doing and it doesn't argue with the fundamentals of good horsemanship, I'm like, let's go. Teach me something.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Really cool. Okay, so we're here, pretty much here on the hour. This has been really insightful, and I started this by saying it's incredible how you do it all, and now I'm even more impressed with how much you do. I don't know, like it's incredible. It's just like the fact that you still manage to like cold plunge every day, meditate every day. I'm like, man, I need to get my.
That's a total of 12 minutes.
But it's
most people take that much time. Like they take 3 times that checking the soch.
You're right though, but it's a matter of making yourself do it. It's not about minutes in the day. It's about having the like conviction about like this is going to happen today, and like, yeah, I'm not going to spend as much time scrolling, which is such a win. So it takes a lot of just like self
but you gotta set it up. Like that's the thing, is like I appreciate what you're saying, Kinsey, and that's very kind, but I actually have set it up where it's not that hard. Like that, like we did invest in like a really nice cold plunge. I'm not gonna lie. We're paying it off as long as we're paying off our farm. But it's right out, like it's 2 feet from me right now.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, you won't do it. So you just can't think about it. You just have to do it. And then it's only 2 minutes. And then I stack 10 minutes on top of that. So I know I can't even argue with myself. If I look at my watch and I have 15 minutes and it takes me 1 minute to put on my swimsuit and my towel's already out there, like there's no excuse. You have to go. And then it's the same thing with the gym in the morning. Like I do it before anything has a chance to get in my way. Like there's just no excuse. And then that makes me go to bed. Like you just have to set it up in a way that you can't get in your own way. It's like, that's the hard part, but then you just do it.
That's the takeaway here though, is I think knowing that that's the approach to take, and like that is a approach to take that will be effective, is a huge learning. Like I don't necessarily know if that's like super intuitive. So I think people can definitely learn from that, and I can learn from that, and I think we can all do a better job of like creating that disciplined schedule and like that space for ourselves to be improving ourselves every day, even when we feel like we're running at a mile, like 100 miles an hour. Okay. But before I let you go, one last question that I thought was really interesting is for people who work for our members who work in the equestrian world and love to ride, do you have suggestions on how to keep the joy in your work?
Ooh, the joy. Learn something new, read something interesting, watch a cool video. That's for me. I get super excited when I learn something and I'm like, I want to go try it. Like, I want to go try it. I want to go see it. Don't drill. Drills are important in certain things when you're trying to acquire a skill set, not when you're trying to find joy. Like getting good is super freaking boring. Finding joy is not, like, I say that to a lot of my students when they're like, just want to be good. I'm like, well, getting good is boring. Like you just have to repeat shit over and over and over and over again, and be analytical. But joy is finding something interesting and new to go out and try. Like, I think those are two different things. So I think if you, yeah, I mean, I just think there's so much cool stuff, available to learn and to try and to get curious about. And I would say one of the, like, teaching a horse to problem solve is one of the most fun things because you can't get it wrong. Like, I didn't really understand like why sometimes in the, somebody would teach a horse to stand on a pedestal
Yeah.
or put or target train or put their nose on something, and all they're trying to do is teach the horse to do something and problem solve. And so it's like, that's even so fun with a horse, is watching a horse figure out a problem, and you just figure out a game that you want them to do and you just try it and see. So I think for me, I would just recommend finding something fun, learning something new, and then going and trying it.
I love that. That is a great piece of advice to end on. Sinead, thank you so much for taking the time and doing this. I always learn so much from you. And I am going to be a better person tomorrow because I've talked to you today. So thank you for that. And everybody who attended live, thank you so much for doing so. And those of you who submitted questions, thank you. These were wonderful questions for this evening. And Sinead, have a wonderful evening. And I hope you get to bed here shortly.
I will. Don't worry. All right. Thanks.
Bye, guys.